But when you actually take a personality profile like the Investor DNA and you say, you know what, I'm really driven. I love kind of being like at the helm of something important and I want to affect change in something. That means you're like a high D profile in a disc. Have you ever heard the disc, profile? Well, a high D may not really want to buy a turnkey rental property.
Financial independence, freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hey, welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life. Joey Mure is with us. He is a really cool guy. He is the co-founder and partner at Wealth Without Wall Street, which is an online community that seeks to re-educate business owners and families on how money truly works. Wall Street is not just a street in New York that puts Americans' money at risk, but it's also a commonly taught mindset. Wealth Without Wall Street exists to help people who want to become financially free without ever having to invest through Wall Street or becoming debt-free. Joey, thank you for joining us today.
Christine, always good to be here.
We had a great opportunity to talk before the show, and we probably should have recorded it because there's some good stuff came up, but
always. That's how it always works.
But I want to talk about that myth, that idea that you can just take your money, take whatever, $100 a week and put it in this little account, and some nameless, faceless, or perhaps someone who you've met in person is investing it for you. And then magically, when it's time to retire, you're all set. You got a ton of money. You don't have to die at 75 to make your numbers work. I mean, talk about that whole myth that a lot of us bought into.
Oh man, it is so prevalent because I will tell you this: Wall Street and big banks have the market cornered on marketing. At the end of the day, they've made it to where you feel like you're not smart enough. You feel like I need to entrust my money to someone else, but they've also given themselves no accountability, right? Because they say, hey, yeah, you need us. We're smarter than you. You need to give us your money. But then, hey, by the way, if the market goes down, I can't be held responsible.
Exactly. It's like the weatherman. Yeah. I
Yeah.
said it was going to be sunny. It rained. Sorry about your picnic. Right? It's just the same thing. We're right like 3% of the time. But hey, you need us.
What a great analogy. I'm going to use that, Christine. Thank you. But nothing else in your life works that way, right? If I like Christine, we're talking to women, many of which are probably over 40 years old, and we all know how important our health is. But there's nobody that's listening right now that would say, you know what, I just don't know that much about health. And I just don't feel like I've been educated. I didn't go to school for health. So I'm just going to let someone else manage my health. And I'm just going to just let them do it. Right? That's ludicrous. That idea is like, that would never happen. Or like
especially
children.
someone who's not right all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like parenting, right? I've been a parent. Nobody really taught me that well. Maybe I didn't have great models at home growing up. But I think the more people I talk to, the more I realize nobody really had great models. And because we all are sinful, flawed beings. But at the end of the day, you're never still going to allow that to be an excuse. You're going to still show up for your kids. You're still going to be there to help them the best way that you know possible. And you're going to even educate yourself along the way.
Right.
But when it comes to our money, we've been duped. Like we've been said, hey, just put money blindly away into this 401k or this IRA. And by the way, maybe when you're 65, there'll be this mountain of money. And you can just start taking a few bills off the top just to kind of make ends meet. But here's the funny thing, Christine. What is Wall Street or big banks doing with your money while you're building this pile?
Oh, they're playing cards with it, right? They're shooting craps with it.
They're
They're hoping for the
making
best.
they're making money hand over fist. They're
Absolutely.
actually, are they deferring your money, like their money until they're 65 or 70%, 70 years old. No, they're taking your money today that are valuable dollars. I mean, if you think about inflation, every day your dollars go down in value. They take your dollars today at the highest value that they are, and they invest them and they get cash flow today. That's the truth about money is cash flow is more important than net worth, or cash flow is more important than accumulation of dollars,
Absolutely.
because that's where freedom comes from. And Christine, what I'm passionate about is helping families to understand that you got to switch the game. You can't play the accumulation game because it doesn't create freedom. I can't spend more time with my kids today, who, by the way, are now 18, 16, down to age 6. I have 5 daughters. Okay. I'm telling you, the 6-year-old wants to hang out with me today. My 16-year-old,
Not so
eh,
much.
maybe from time to time.
Yeah.
And so, am I going to just wait with all, like, put all that money aside and just hope till I'm 65? My 6-year-old's not going to want to play with me then.
Yeah.
So, what's the game? The game is I have to have passive income that exceeds my monthly expenses. As soon as I do that, my calendar is my own. And guess what? I no longer have to have millions and millions and millions of dollars saved up, which is what Wall Street tells you.
Right.
I need to have just enough to cover my monthly expenses. And guess what? If you don't know that already, it's an easy thing to do. Pull up your bank statements for the last 90 days and average out what you spent. That's how you keep score, right? And so you're telling people, Christine, how to buy investment real estate. Well, how many properties does it take to cover my monthly expenses?
Exactly.
That's a formula. I want to empower you right now as you're listening to Christine and I talk. You can do that. You do not need some intermediary, like third party, who's going to be making money off of your money today to tell you that. You need to know my expenses are 10 grand and I bought these 4 properties and now I have $2,000 coming in. I'm 20% of the way to my goal.
Right.
Well, how many more properties? Like you do the
Yeah.
math. I
It's
mean,
just
this
simple
is not
math.
hard.
Exactly. Yep.
So, anyways, I just want to like challenge you, man. You have more options than you think, and this is something you can do. This is not hard. Anyway, that's my soapbox, Christine.
But I love it. And I agree 100%, right? People think they can save up to get rich, and it just doesn't work that way. Especially, I mean, I'm sure even in I mean, I'm older than a lot of people, but I mean, not everybody, but but, most people know somebody who lost everything. They thought they were going to retire, and then all of a sudden, oh, the market crashed. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. We weren't really paying that much attention, and maybe we got a little too much of your money in this, that, or the other thing. And then you can't retire when you thought you were going to retire. And that's why we have Walmart greeters that are 85 years old. And that's not the way to work it. If you've got that, like Joey says, you've got the passive income, you've got money coming in to cover all your bills, and that's it. That's what they call financial freedom, right? I have enough money to do what I need to do, and I never have to work again. But
Yeah,
if you're always eroding your savings, you're like, oh, it's like watching the clock. I mean, oh gosh, am I going to be able to live another year? Shit, I gotta. When do you need to die in order to make sure you've still got money?
Christine, I'm gonna share with you a story. I was on the beach with my family probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I can't remember now. And we just struck up a conversation. This older woman and her husband are there. She sees my shirt. It says Wealth Without Wall Street, right? In fact, we have like these swim shirts, and all my kids have them, and they all say, well, I mean, we're just like a walking billboard, which is fantastic. And she comes up, hey, so tell me about that on your shirt. And I'm like, oh, Wealth Without Wall Street. That's our company. We have a podcast, all this stuff. She's like, she's like, well, we went ahead and retired this year, and I hope it's enough. Like that was her words to me. And I was like, interesting. Like you're at the pinnacle. She's retired. She's finally said enough is enough. I've got enough money and I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger. And in her mind, the only question she has is not, man, what all can we do now? It's how I hope it's enough. And what I'm going to challenge you, and I hope this doesn't hurt somebody's feelings, but the retirement idea and the Wall Street mindset creates scarcity,
Right.
right? How much? So think about it. You're scarce on the way up the mountain. I need to live off of the least amount so that I can save as much as possible and put it away and just keep, increasing that mountain of cash. And then you're scarce on the way down. Oh, well, I don't want to take too much out. I mean, I'm now finally free. I can retire. I can go see the world. Wait a minute. How expensive is that to go see the world? How expensive is it to, well, I can't afford that. So I'm just not going to. You're literally scarce on the way up, scarce on the way down, and the abundance never comes. So you have to change the game. The game is rigged.
And that's, you brought us so beautifully into mindset, which is what I want to talk about. What a nice segue that was.
Hey, I do what I can.
You're awesome. You're awesome. So yeah, that brings us to such a beautiful point because if all you're doing is scrimping and saving in both directions, right? Where you can't just say, I mean, if you know you need $10,000 a month and this month you made 11,000, you're like, whoa, we get an extra $1,000. What can we do? Let's have a great time because I know that now that we've got this increased bump, we're going to get that every month. So what should we do with it? Let's go here. Let's buy this. Let's do whatever because it's not, of course, it's not guaranteed income, but if you've done everything correctly, it's a very excellent chance that that money's just going to keep flowing. And it doesn't matter how big the mountain is because you're just siphoning off a lot of other little people's mountains. I don't know. Anyway, so talk about getting ourselves into the right mindset so that we can understand and attract abundance and sort of change our paradigm.
Well, and before I do that, I want to just add one thing about that. The dollars that you like inflation, we just talked about that just briefly, are eroding the value of your dollar. Okay. So when you give Wall Street or big banks your dollars today, they're making money off of your money today because it's the most valuable. But what they're doing is they're saying, hey, let me hold on to it for the next 30 to 40 years. So let me show you how real estate or any investment for that matter, because Wealth Without Wall Street, we're all about like we have 21 different streams of income that we personally invest in. And like I'm happy to break those down for you. But we share our report every single month. So if you like, we're just not talkers, we're doers, we're results oriented. But here's the thought process. Think about this. How do you get inflation to work for you? We're just going to use a rental property for your example. I borrow money today on a 30-year mortgage to buy a property. Well, my mortgage payment today, let's say it's $2,000. In 30 years, that $2,000 is going to feel like it's like $600 a month. Okay. But in the meantime, what's happened to rental rates? Because of inflation, I might have only been getting, let's say, $2,500 a month on rent today on that property. But in 30 years, it might be $6,000 a month because inflation works for you, not against you, right? So that's just a tactical thing. I don't want to like get caught up on that, but the mindset piece, I think that it starts with I have to take ownership. Nobody else is going to do it for me,
Yeah.
right? As soon as you figure that out, then it's just like, okay, give me the formula so that I know what to do. And that's where I gave you the passive income has to be greater than monthly expenses. So that's like step two in my brain. It's like mentally, I have to make the shift that I have to do this. Two, I can do this because I have the actual formula. And then three, the thing that I would say we're probably very unique about because we don't sell any sort of like investment vehicles. We don't have a dog in the fight. We're agnostic to what you invest in. So what we did is we created the step three is what sort of investor are you? And we call it the investor DNA profile. So most people are like, well, don't you just invest like what's going to pay me the most money? Like what's the ROI, the rate of interest or return on investment. And it's like, yeah, that's important. I'm not saying go invest in things that are 2% or you're not going to keep up with inflation. But when you actually take a personality profile like the investor DNA and you say, you know what, I'm really driven. I love kind of being like at the helm of something important and I want to affect change in something. That means you're like a high D profile in a disc. Have you ever heard the disc, profile? Well, a high D may not really want to buy a turnkey rental property
Right.
where it's being managed by somebody else. Because guess what? It's boring, right? They can't affect the change. They can't go in and say, all of a sudden this thing was netting me $400 a month. Now I can do this and it can net $700 a month. There's nothing to do. I mean, it just does what it's going to do. Now compare that to a high C personality. This is like you're cautious, steady, slow, like really, what's the word? Analytical. If you're that type of person, you're going to love a turnkey rental property because it is predictable. It's boring. I can do all this analysis up front and say, yeah, my margins are going to be big enough. I can have a management company manage it for this percentage and all this, and I still have this much left over. Now let's rinse and repeat and do that again. But I'm just telling you, the two things, it's the same investment,
Right.
but the person is different. Like God's given us very unique talents and resources and experiences for a reason. I don't want to invest in the same thing everybody else does. I want to invest in things that align up with me.
Right.
So as soon as you do those steps, I got to take ownership. I know the formula and I know what sort of investor I am. We see people just run like quickly down this path of financial freedom because they're equipped, right? They're confident. They can look through like that investor DNA profile. It gives you your profile, and then it gives you our top like 16 or 18 different passive income ideas, along with what are the pros, the cons, and all the resources that are necessary to be successful in each one. So now you have a filter. You say, oh, well, I'm a high D. I'm going to go down and I'm going to get down to these one or two. I'm going to be educated on those. And then I'm off to the races. Like, let's go. And so, anyways, I think if you can get your mindset around those kind of steps, all of a sudden you're gonna be running fast. And like I said, you probably will make some mistakes along the way, but mistakes are not the enemy. They're the teacher. And you got to be willing to educate yourself in this process. Nobody grew up being an investor. They had to be trained. Like the best investors that you know, they will, if you pull them aside and say, hey, I'm thinking about investing. Um, have you ever made any mistakes along the way? They will laugh out loud. And then they will share all the war stories that got them. You see the result, but iceberg, everything else below that they went through.
You said a key thing when you started that, Joey. I mean, first of all, I 100% agree. And I just want to make sure that it didn't get lost, that one of the main things you have to do, like this is even like a step before step one, is you have to decide, or maybe this was your step one, but that you have the power to do this, that you are smart enough and you are whatever, that you are not this person
Capable.
who
Yeah.
has to have daddy tell you what to do or, this other person to make these choices for you. A lot of women don't think that they'd be good real estate investors, and it's often very far from the truth because where men tend to be more like, wild, wild west, and then, oh, yeah, we can make this work and we'll just put some masking tape over here and we'll put some duct tape over here and it's going to be great. The women are saying, let's run the numbers, let's figure out if this is going to work. And it makes us more successful in the end. And we are actually often less likely to make mistakes. when I talk to a lot of women, they're like, oh, well, my grandfather had this investment property and, no one was paying the rent and blah, blah, blah. I mean, my question is, would you let that happen? I mean, really? Are you going to take these like fly by night people that you met at the bar and just stick them in your apartment? No, of course not. You're going to do the analysis. You're going to run their credit. You're going to check them out. You're going to call references, right? So it's the first step is saying, I can do this. I have the power, I have the intellect, I have the whatever it is that will allow me to be successful in this. And yeah, maybe I'll make some mistakes. Maybe I need to listen to some podcasts like yours. Maybe we need to, you know, learn something, but that doesn't mean that whether it's because of your gender or just because you've never done it before or whatever reason it is that's holding you back.
Yeah, I'll say you hit the nail on the head. Like some of the most successful people we've interviewed have been women who have taken control of this financial aspect of their life. There's actually one girl that came on our podcast, and she's a client of ours. She actually started um, investing in real estate years ago from Hawaii. She lives in Hawaii, and she's like, well, Hawaii is not a great place to invest because everything's so expensive. Like the land is at a premium, right? It's an
There's only
island,
so much.
right? And so what she did is she started buying turnkey rental properties all over the country where she sight unseen. Like she has never even been to half of them. She's got like 180 rental properties. I mean, she works because she likes to, not because she has to. And she built a system around it. We our Wealth Without Wall Street process really starts with a passive income operating system. We walk through cash flows, we walk through your budget, we build out this whole system that actually helps you store your cash instead of in 401ks and IRAs and all that. We use a concept called infinite banking, and that then leads to many times joining a mastermind because that's where you really need to learn how to be an investor. Yes, where you do your investor DNA and all that. But in her case, she had already started investing in real estate and realized she needed the system to back it up. So she became a client that way. But man, the results are just profound because she, like I said, you hit the nail on the head. She's very analytical. She's very cautious and she's very thoughtful about where she invests. So she's looking at demographics. She's looking at what are the industries in the area? Because she's not even going to be physically in the same location.
Right.
So she had to take a lot of time to figure out where's my target. And slow and steady wins the race. She has absolutely won the game by playing like that. So good point.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you bringing up that live example because there are a lot of examples out there, but I think maybe we just don't brag as much as guys do. I know.
Exactly.
Maybe one of the people that I interviewed for my book was actually her tenants, she lived in the building with some of her tenants, and she said they don't know that I'm the owner. They think I'm just the property manager. And she said it's a great buffer because if they ask me for something, I'll say, let me talk to the owner and I'll get back to you.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. But and that's another good point is we can do this however works for us, right? We don't need to be using someone else's model. And I love that, that this woman who you're talking about from Hawaii, that she just said, well, I can't invest here because everything's ridiculously expensive. And maybe I don't want to, I don't need to be boots on the ground. I don't need to be the one who's fixing toilets at 2 a.m., which is right. What are the toilets, tenants, and trash or something?
Yeah,
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that guy. I've got a guy for that, right? I'm going to just worry about the money. I'll take the money and you can do all the other stuff, right?
exactly. And you have that option. So that's
Absolutely.
great. Some people don't even know that those are options that people make a great living managing your properties for you. And that's what you don't want to get involved in. It can be delegated away. So, yeah, great point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess some people might not be familiar with the concept or the phrase of turnkey property. Do you want to just chat about that for a few seconds?
Sure. We've interviewed tons of these sort of providers. They're all over the country, and you have to do your due diligence, right? Because there's some people who pop up and oh, I'm a turnkey provider, and then they just don't do what they say they're going to do. But basically, their model is they find the property, they renovate the property. So they buy it very inexpensive, they renovate it, and then they get tenants into the property on your behalf. And then they manage those properties, they manage the tenants from then on, and you pay them a management fee, but they get a premium for finding them and fixing them up. So maybe they, buy it for 40,000, they put 50,000 in and they'll sell it to you for 150. But you didn't have to find it, you didn't have to have a hammer, you just literally buy it and move on.
Right.
And then they manage the tenant. Again, the key phrase there is you got to make sure that they do what they say that they do, and you have to have reviews and you have to make sure that they're, reliable company. But on the whole, there's a lot of these providers out there, and sometimes they're geographically focused. So there's actually one here in Alabama that we're good friends with. Spartan Invest is one of them is in our mastermind, one of the owners. And then there's others in like St. Louis and Memphis. There's like some key geographic areas where the model really works well.
Yeah, and those are probably places that are not necessarily right near you, but there are certain parts of the country where the rents are pretty high, but the property values are still pretty low, and that's where you can really make those kinds of things work, even though you're paying a management company and, maybe you paid a premium for the property, but also if it was just renovated by a reliable person, you're probably going to have a lot less issues. So,
Exactly. Yeah, great point.
yeah, excellent. So, what's your favorite type of investing? Of all the types of investing that you do you have something that you really like? This works with my personality style. This is what I love to do.
Well, I'll tell you, Russ and I, so Russ is my business partner at Wealth Without Wall Street, and he and I are very similar in some aspects, but we're different enough to where I would not invest in certain things without him, and he would not invest in certain things without me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what we really kind of are drawn to are things that we can influence in some way. So that's why we're not crazy about just turnkey rentals ourselves, but we've
Yeah.
had a lot of people that have done great with them. But we like to have businesses that we are in some sort of an advisory role, but we're not required to be in the day-to-day operations. So it's still semi-passive because we're going to check in with those people, the operators and the principals of those businesses. A couple of examples. One, we started a short-term rental business and we had an operator from day one. We're like, hey, here's the first property. We want you to go and run it on Airbnb, VRBO. And he did a great job. So we expanded to over, I think we had to 27 at the height of it. And then we sold the business to the operator. So that was a great business model for us because we were not involved in the chatting with guests about what's the door code and blah blah blah. But we were there to say, hey, have you thought about marketing it this way? Like, what if we tried this? And oh man, that worked out great. And what if we did this? Like, we like to be in some influence. And then the second one and this is the one that's been the most profitable for us, is the raw land business. So we have a team of operators that go out and buy raw land for 20 to 30 cents on the dollar. And you may be thinking, well, who sells their land for 20 cents? You're like, that sounds too good to be true. But as being in the real estate world, that there's certain parcels of property that may only be worth, $20,000, right? And those owners are going to try to call up a real estate agent and say, "Hey, would you sell this property for me?" And what's the realtor going to say?
$20,000.
They're like, "I
Or,
can't make I can't
yeah, I
make
can't make any
enough
money doing that, right?
by selling that at even a 10% commission. It's not worth my time because
Yeah,
it's going to take a lot of time and go and walk the land and all this kind of stuff." So
exactly.
there's not a really good, efficient way to sell land like that. And so people that own that property, they're like, think of it like having a weed eater in your garage that has been dead for 10 years, or you haven't used it in 10 years.
Yeah.
It may still run, you don't know, because it's just sitting there. Someone walks in and they're like, hey, I need a weed eater. What do you take for that? I'll give you $10 for it. And it may be worth 100, but you're like, just get it out. Like I haven't
I never
touched it in
use it.
forever,
Get rid of it. Yeah, it's just
right?
collecting dust.
So people have land like that.
Yeah.
They bought it for a purpose years ago, or they inherited it, and now they're paying tax on it, and they don't like it. They don't have any plans to use it,
Right.
and so they're like, literally, our team will send them a mailer and say, hey, we'd like to offer you $2,000 on this land that may be worth 10,000. And they're like, "Pff, sold. You got it."
Yeah.
Right. And then our team turns around and sells that land for 10,000 on places like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or land.com or any of these outlets. And we do it on owner finance. So now
Nice.
someone doesn't have to have 10K to put like to buy it outright. They put down, instead of 10K, they do like $200 a month for 50 months. Oh, all of a sudden, it's now affordable, it's available, and now people love it. So they'll buy more and more land from you if you have it. So this is my favorite one because we're buying at such a low price. Even if the market shifted, it's still worth way more than what we paid for it. And number two, because it's a land, it's raw land, there's no property to take care of, to maintain. And
Right.
if someone is paying us for it and they stop paying, it's not like an eviction process. There's no foreclosure. You just say, hey, that property is now back to me, and I go and resell it the next day if I want to.
Right.
So it's a fantastic business model. We partner with thelandgeek.com if you're familiar with Mark Podolsky and those guys. But if anybody's interested, that's a great resource. Our business right now, I think, is up to almost 35,000 a month coming just from the land business. And that gets me excited.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it's
And
super
you're
fun
opening doors for people, right? They could buy that. They could, get their permits, do their building. It's a life changer for some people,
for
right?
sure.
Cool. Awesome. So our time is flying by. I think we could talk for like 10 hours, Joey, I swear. So let me just ask you, is there anything that you wish I would have asked you or something you want that we haven't touched on or that you really want to make sure that people take away from today's episode?
Well, so here's the thing. I don't want to overwhelm, but one thing that I'll tell you is the concept that we now have as our first step in the process was what we did first, and that's the infinite banking concept. If you're not familiar with it, go get educated, right? There's tons of resources. We have courses in our community, we have ebooks, we have our book itself on Amazon, Wealth Without Wall Street, Three Steps to Financial Freedom Through Passive Income. We have a whole chapter on infinite banking. However, you learn, go learn about it because this was the linchpin that took us from putting money away and abdicating it to somebody else and putting it into 401ks and Wall Street vehicles to getting it into our control. And that one change led to Russ and I and countless others in our community. We've created over 50,000 a month in passive income just by starting that process and then becoming investors along the way. And it's something everybody can do. So I just want to encourage you, if you don't know about it, learn about it. We don't have time to get into all the details, but it's been a game changer for us and so many, probably thousands of people in our community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joey. And
Yeah.
thank you, listener, for listening. I I wonder if you know anybody else in your circle who wants more money. Do you know anybody who like would maybe like to not work for money and just work for fun or just have a good time and travel more? If you do, I bet just try to write down 5 people and forward this episode to them because they will thank you. Joey will thank you and I will thank you, but they will thank you the most. And be sure to be here next week.